find a direction. It's really rewarding.
Barb, I think I agree with you. I think what the Kirkwood system is
Sure.
Sorry, Gary, there's just a bit of background noise. Go on.
Oh, that's okay. I was just going to support what you said. I think Kirkwood and the community college system that we have is an absolute wonderful adjunct or even addition to what we can do where you are at the university. It's just a great system.
Well, and for us at Tippy, we get a lot of transfer students who come in having completed their first 2 years. And, when you're a business student and you have to do calculus, not my favorite subject, I'll just be honest, you might want to consider, if you're like me, you might want to consider taking calculus at a place like Kirkwood, where smaller class size, somebody who's going to really help you through, some of those challenging topics if it's not your forte. So it's definitely a good option for people as they, look to transfer to four-year schools.
Well, thank you, Gary. You could do a commercial for us too.
I would be willing to. I'm very supportive.
Laurie, this is being recorded, so you can snip these out and do public service announcements from both Barbara and Gary. So this is great.
I know. I mean, they're just like speaking my mission. I mean, it's wonderful.
Well, last week we had a great program which featured some of the people from Kirkwood who are doing the program with the high school students. Mm-hmm. That was great.
Hey, Barb.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but in the mall downtown, there's a nice booth by Kirkwood that says many of the Iowa students were Eagles before they became Hawks. I think that's very clever marketing.
That is good. That is good.
Oh. I don't know who put that there, but I'm glad that they did.
All right, let's see. Okay, it's time. I'm sorry. I'm chatting about Kirkwood so much I missed my start time. So welcome everyone. My name is Barb Thomas and I am your president for a few more weeks now in this 2021 Rotary year. As we start normally, we do start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will ask Devin to share his screen and provide us with a flag. And then I encourage you to join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Well, thank you all. I just may remind you that it might be good for you to mute your microphone. And while we are all becoming more and more savvy with Zoom, there's always room for a little bit of a reminder. So I'm going to turn it over to Devin for just a few quick Zoom reminders for everyone. Devin?
Yep. Thanks, President Barb. So just quick reminders, you can change your view. You can either see the gallery view and look at all the smiling faces of your fellow Rotarians, see the wave at the end, all of that, or switch to the speaker view so you can see our speaker front and center. Then I encourage you to check out the reactions tab, use that to do crying, laughing emojis, party emojis, whatever seems to fit the mood of whatever you want to convey, because people aren't always looking at your smiling face. And then when you have an announcement, if you have a question, use the raise hand option there as well. And you'll have an opportunity to use that later today. Finally, I will ask you to sign in to the chat like so many people have done already. So thank you. I was hard pressed to keep up with everyone, which is awesome. Glad to see all of you, but that helps us with attendance. We're at, if I remember correctly, we're hitting about 20% of our membership at attending meetings every week. And that just helps us think about, like, are these programs meeting people's needs? Are these programs the exciting things that people want to see and see what does well? So anyway, thank you all for doing that. And back to you, President Barb.
Great, thank you, Devin. So that is a good reminder to people that, we need program ideas. Devin does a great job. Devin is the chair of the program committee, but if you have an idea for a program that you think might be valuable, please email Devin and let him know, or send him a direct chat right in that chat right there. But you can, we like to cover everything. It could be sports figures, it could be business leaders, it could be nonprofits. We like to try to make sure there's a mix. So we are always open for more ideas. So thanks for that. So as we start the day, we will do some introductions because we want to make sure our guests and visitors feel comfortable. I'm going to turn it back over to Devin. He's going to ask you to raise your hand, remember, in that reaction tab, and raise your hand to introduce your guest. So I will send it back to you, Devin.
Thanks, President Barb. Eric Weiler, you were first in line.
Sure, great. Wonderful to see everyone today. I'm Eric Weiler. I have a guest today, Laurie Murlock. Laurie is the Associate Dean at Kirkwood's Iowa City campus. And Laurie, if you could just unmute yourself and say hello real quick, that'd be great.
You bet. Thank you so much, Eric. Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm excited to represent Iowa City campus today and to meet all of you. So thanks for having me. And I look forward to hearing Dr. Sundberg.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Laura. We appreciate that. Trish, you got a guest.
Thank you, Devin, and hello to everyone. And United Way is strong. Katie and I have invited, and Patty Fields, our Vice President Impact and Engagement, which many of you know, is also on the call today. So Patty, if you just want to unmute and say hi real quick, that'd be great.
Hello, so happy to be here.
Thanks for coming, Patty. Good to see you. I don't see any other hands raised.
You said to him.
Tracy, you're.
I just got it.
All right, thank you. All right, back to you, President Barber.
Okay, great. All right, so now we'll move into the announcement section of our meeting. So I do want to remind you that June is Membership Renewal Month. And so the reason that we want you to take action on that now is because as of July 1st, our club will pay dues to Rotary International for every member on our books. So we want to try to make sure that that membership list is as accurate as possible. And so the Rotary board members will be following up with people who we have not heard from before. So remember, you can pay by check, but you can also set up an automatic withdrawal, which will be done quarterly. I will send out an email reminder later this afternoon that will provide both the renewals form and the ACH is what we refer to that quarterly withdrawal. I highly, highly, highly encourage you to do that today. Do it today, do it this week, take care of your dues, because otherwise that means a board member is going to be assigned to call you and follow up. And it's a lot of work for us to kind of take on. Being a volunteer board, we're already doing a lot, so make our work a little easier by actually sending in your dues statement. Now, we've just checked and we do still have about 100 people yet to pay their dues. So I want to encourage you to act on that.
Recording in progress.
In addition, I am going to turn it over to Ryan Bell, who has an announcement. Ryan?
Yeah, hey everybody. This announcement is just that you can attend this year's international convention for the lowest cost and most easy way. It's all virtual, so everybody should register for the international convention because it's really cool. I'm sure a lot of, or at least a handful of people on the call have been to it in person. I am one of them, and it really ignited my love for Rotary. And the pre-convention starts a week from today. So you can actually register. It's only $65 and take part in about a week's worth of different activities and listen to some phenomenal speakers and just, again, kind of build your love for Rotary. So I'll put the link to register here in the chat, and that's also got kind of the calendar of events as well.
Great. And Ryan's right. This is the easiest way for you to attend and the cheapest registration you're ever going to find. So before we move on, I did just find out that we have another visiting Rotarian here. Dennis Jordan is here. He is the past president of the Cedar Rapids Downtown Rotary and assistant district governor for District 5970. Dennis, would you like to say hello to everyone?
Well, hello, everyone, and want to thank Eric for letting me know about today's speaker. Very connected with Kirkwood and anxious to hear Laurie speak, but also know a lot of familiar faces here in the virtual room. So nice to see everyone and look forward to seeing you face-to-face, hopefully sometime in 2021.
Great, thanks so much, Dennis. Next, I'm going to go to Brad Baldus, who has an announcement as well. Brad?
Thank you, President Barb. I am here to announce for the final time in 2021 that we're having our Rotary sponsored Ronald McDonald House Golf Tournament this coming Monday, the 7th. Like last week, we only have 2 foursomes available, and we're doing tee times. So 9 a.m. and 9:20 a.m. tee times are still available if anybody has a last minute hankering to play golf. We can fit you in. And we also could use some more volunteers. We have a good list already started on the Sign Up Genius, which I'm scrolling down now, but you can also see there's some available spots for the setup in the morning and registration from 8:30 to 11. Linda Farkas has the silent auction raffle all booked up. But we've got on-course hole attendees pretty short, 2 of 20 slots filled at this point. So we definitely have room for more volunteers, for people who would appreciate contributing to this event and getting out in the hopefully very nice weather on a golf course, which is always nice. And I will put the link again for the volunteer sign-up genius in the chat. And lastly, there still is, as always, the opportunity to sponsor a hole or become or donate in any way, including adopting a house program. This is all on the PowerPoint slide in the weekly Rotary PowerPoint. And I will also put the links in the chat to get to the actual website, which is right here, which has the registration on the right side of the page to register to play and or to donate, and links lower down for volunteering to get to that Sign Up Genius website. So last time you're going to hear from me this year, soliciting help and donations. Hopefully it'll be a great day and we can still use you if you are available. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks so much for all your work on this, Brad. And it is a great event. If you want to get up bright and early and join me at 6 o'clock for setup, I'm happy to have you join me. But, you know, really take a look at that volunteer schedule, because to make this event work, we need a lot of people. And so please consider volunteering. Next, I want to go to Eric Weiler, who has an announcement as well. Eric?
Yep. Thank you, President Barb. Really exciting news to share. We've all been anticipating this for basically the last year, but our Rotary Club is going to be returning to in-person meetings next month. So let that sink in for a second real quick. We're excited to see everyone again. We are looking at July 1st for sure, with the possibility of June 24th. So more to come on that. As you heard, we will be meeting at the Highlander. If you haven't visited the Highlander lately, they have a new ownership group that has invested millions of dollars in the property to bring it back to its past glory. And we will also have the Zoom option available, so it'll be a hybrid meeting. So if you're not comfortable yet coming in person, or maybe there's a great speaker and you're unable to get there in person, you will still be able to log in on Zoom as well too. So exciting things happening. Look forward to seeing everyone in person soon, and watch for more information from us in the coming weeks.
Great, thanks so much, Eric. And we will provide information, as well as our hope is that we'll be able to provide you just a little tutorial on how you will register for your lunch and pay for that in advance. So that is coming, and that is a great way for us to be a good client to our restaurant partner so that they know how many meals to prepare. So we will try to do our best to provide some tutorials for you before that actually takes place. So next, we're going to go to our latest Rotary tradition, which is the Rotary moment of gratitude and positivity. And this week, we will hear from one of our newer members, Brent Carstensen. Brent?
Thank you, President Barb. Today, I want to share with you something that I'm truly grateful for. Although my Iowa upbringing and my Tippie College of Business degree have instilled in me a solid sense of rational thinking and conservative decision-making, I have found that there have been critical points in my life where I put that aside and instead just trusted my gut to make important life decisions. After graduation from Iowa, I began my career in Chicago. After 8 years, I moved to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area to take a consulting position. It was a great place to live and I loved my job. I especially liked working with clients nationwide, which allowed me to travel to all corners of this great country. I flew every week, sometimes to 2 or more destinations in a week. Unfortunately, during that time, my mother lost her battle with breast cancer and passed away at the far too young age of 53. Going through that experience made me rethink what was important in life. The 8-hour drive to my hometown or to Chicago seemed more like 24 hours. I began feeling isolated and really missed being closer to family and friends. So even though my rational brain told me that I was on the best possible career path in a fantastic job, my gut told me that being close to family and friends was far more important. Fortunately, I was able to transfer to the firm's Chicago office and was able to work mostly with local clients. Overall, I felt a more profound sense of being grounded in the community after my move to Chicago. While I was living in Chicago, I was able to commit a significant amount of time and energy volunteering for the breast cancer cause, which was extremely fulfilling. One day I was shopping at a large wine retailer, no comments, Barb, and I had a chance encounter with the champagne buyer. We quickly discovered our mutual passion for the breast cancer cause. Suddenly, an idea popped into my head. Charles, let's raise some money for the cause. Can you get some suppliers to donate champagne? Charles said, of course. And that was the start of a champagne-themed event to raise money for a breast cancer nonprofit. Never mind that neither of us had started an event like this from scratch, or that we didn't have a venue, or that we didn't know if anyone would find any interest whatsoever in an event centered around champagne. It just felt right. I ignored the rational side of my brain. Well, our little event turns 19 this year and has raised a total of over $650,000 for the cause. My final example is how I ended up here in Iowa City. After 30 plus years in Chicago, I couldn't imagine living anywhere else but Chicago. We had a fantastic life. But in 2015, my wife and I were riding our 4th RAGBRAI, and we had an overnight stop in the Iowa City area. Our team stayed overnight in the beautiful Beckwith Boathouse, right on the Iowa River near Mayflower Apartments. After a particularly tough day of riding in rainy weather, we were beat. A hot shower helped, as did a cold beer. Fortunately, the weather cleared and it was now a perfect Iowa summer evening. We stepped outside and stared down the river toward Hancher Auditorium and the campus, and a very sudden and unexpected feeling rushed over me. I turned toward my wife and asked, "Do you think we could live here?" She turned to me and said, "I was just thinking the same thing." And that was it. We were moving to Iowa City. No logic involved. For some reason, it just seemed right. And it has been. A beautiful house, wonderful neighbors, a deeper sense of community, a slower pace of life. It was the right move at the right time. So in conclusion, I have found that sometimes in life, you just have to trust what your heart is telling you. When you do, great things can happen, like finding myself with all of you here today.
Oh, that's wonderful, Brent. I love that. Kudos. That's a great message. And we are the lucky beneficiaries of having you here. So great to have you in town and great to have you as well as a member of our club. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
So next we'll move on to our program, and I'm going to call on Steve West to introduce our speaker. Steve?
Thank you, President Barb. It is my pleasure to do this introduction. As many of you may or may not know, I am a self-proclaimed corridorian. And what in the heck is that? I believe that as a region, the corridor or the 7-county area, that by working together, we can enhance the quality of life of everyone in the corridor, and together we will accomplish a great deal. With that in mind, one of the greatest parts of being in the corridor and the glue that has held the corridor together over the last many years and going forward, that will bring us great opportunities and going forward, has been Kirkwood Community College. They have been the glue. They have a campus that reaches over 7 counties, and it has had an incredible impact on the region as a whole. Dr. Laurie Sundberg is the 5th president of Kirkwood. She began her presidency in August 2018. She's the first female serving as president of Kirkwood Community College. She received her doctorate in business administration from St. Ambrose University in 2003, as well as a master's degree in business administration and marketing from Western Illinois University in 1998, and as well as a bachelor's degree from Knox College in Illinois. Prior to coming to Kirkwood, Dr. Sandberg served 8 years as the president of Carl Sandburg College in Galesburg, Illinois, and we're extremely fortunate to have her here today to explain and tell us the impact that Kirkwood's not only having now, but will have for all of us in the future. So Dr. Sandberg, great to have you here, and you're on. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. What a great introduction. I appreciate that. Appreciate being able to be here with you. I think it's been a couple of years since I presented the last time. So thank you, Eric, for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to share my screen now with you. Okay, so what I thought I would do is just talk to you a little bit about what's new with Kirkwood. It's been a couple of years since I've been there, and we've had this thing called a pandemic in the interim. So thought you might want to know about what's going on with Kirkwood. So I'm going to start with COVID because it's the item that's front and center for all of us, and what it meant to Kirkwood, what it meant to our students. And so the effects for Kirkwood was that we had a decline in enrollment, pretty substantial decline, 13%. And I don't know if all of you remember, but last August 10th, we had a derecho that hit. And so we were already feeling the effects of COVID, and then the derecho hit, and it hit 1 week before classes were due to start. And so we ended up delaying classes. We didn't have power a lot of the week. We had substantial damage here on campus. So we delayed a week, but we also believe that that affected our students. So they were already a bit challenged with the pandemic, and then many of our students, had damage with the derecho. So we did recover a bit in the spring. Came back, still a decline, but we did recover a bit. So what is most exciting to me is that applications are up 39% for this coming fall. And you might wonder, why is that exciting to me? But it's kind of like consumer confidence with the economy. So I'll talk a little bit more about it later, but it's an indicator that students are re-engaging. Some students took a gap year. Some students just were overwhelmed and just decided, I just don't know what I want to do. And so that number, that big number of being up in applications, signals to us that students are re-engaging and beginning to think about their futures. So I had a lot of questions this year about how did we manage, and did we have any face-to-face? A lot of institutions went entirely virtual. We did not. And so last fall, we were about 40% face-to-face. You can see the percentages: spring 60. We plan to be 100% face-to-face in the fall, keeping in mind that we have always had online classes. And so those of course will continue. So why were we unique? So what I can tell you is that some institutions across the country still are virtual. Their staff have not come back yet to campus. And we took the approach, our students actually told us last spring, we did a survey with them, that they wanted face-to-face. We also know that with our career and technical education, we have to have face-to-face clinicals and labs. And so I like to say, you know, you can't learn to be a nurse virtually, and you can't learn to weld virtually, or how to work on an automobile. You actually have to do it. And so those experiences were hugely important for our students. So we did another survey with our students then last fall, and they seemed a little bit more comfortable with the virtual approach, and yet they still wanted face-to-face. You might be wondering about the government stimulus packages and how much we received and how much went to students. And so, as you know, there were 3 packages. Kirkwood received in total about $46 million. Half of that is required to go to students. And in fact, the first and second stimulus packages have already been distributed to students. The only one that we have left is the last one. And then that one is going to be distributed coming up. I think we have a year to spend those dollars. The other dollars, Kirkwood dollars that came to the institution, those came to the institution, offset revenue losses, to help with COVID expenses, those kinds of things. So substantial amount of money came to the college. So this is a unique feature. Typically, during downturns in the economy, community college enrollment goes up. And so as unemployment goes up, community college enrollment goes up. This is the first time in history it did not. And so last spring, when we were trying to understand how are things going to look, you know, as a cabinet, we were talking about how, you know, will enrollment go up or not? Typically does. It did not. And obviously, related to the pandemic, all the uncertainty, all the anxiety, you know, something that people have never experienced in their lifetimes, and it changed behavior. Community colleges were the big losers of enrollment. Nationwide, it was down 10%. And if you contrast that to universities, they were down between 4 and 5%. So substantial loss in community college enrollment. Some states, Oregon in particular, I have some colleagues there, 25% decline in enrollment. And so the question always is, well, why is that? You know, and what I like to say is that community college students, they typically have more challenges than university students. So why is that? And so it's because we are non-selective. We accept students where they are. We also have a lot more non-traditional students, which means we have single parents. We have students who are working, sometimes they're working full-time jobs and trying to go back to college. We have students who have food and housing insecurity. But what I would tell you is I bet if you talk to university folks, they'll tell you that they have more students today with food and housing scarcity than they've ever had. So that's not just community college students. But what I know is that if you are a first-time student going back to college, if you are a single parent, if English is not your first language, I know that going back to college, it's a challenge on a good day. And so if you add in a pandemic and a derecho, for many students, that whole idea is just, it feels insurmountable. And they really just don't see a way forward. So what was our way forward? So we're into recovery. We implemented the new CDC protocols last week. So we have tied ourselves consistently to CDC protocols and just really have looked to the science to tell us what we need to do. So last Monday, we transitioned to a little bit more normal operations. Keeping in mind, our staff have been back since last August. All of our staff have been back. They might not have been back every day, because in areas where we had congestion, we couldn't socially distance people, that those folks were on rotation. So 1 week in the office, 1 week at home. So in that regard, we were also extremely unique. So we had 3 phases to return with everyone back August 1st. Now there were some changes. We didn't have faculty doing office hours. Some did in their offices, but not all. And because faculty do share offices, and a lot of times they can't be socially distanced because the offices were small. So we are back to more normal operations. We took out of the classrooms 9,000 chairs last spring, a year ago spring. We actually took a tape measure to every classroom, and we socially distanced all the chairs. And so those have been in storage for a year. They're about 50% now back in the classrooms. They started just after commencement, moving back all of these chairs. What we need to rebuild, I think, is a little bit of student confidence. That they can do it, that they can predict, what the institution is, if the institution is going to be there, the institution is going to be able to support them, and kind of lower their anxiety level in regard to how things are going to be. And we need, as an institution, to rebuild enrollment. So here's the big question. Did we accomplish anything else during the pandemic? And the answer is we did. We have an aviation program that we're going to launch. This is something that we worked on about a year prior to the pandemic. Worked with Eastern Iowa Airport, Marty Lenz there. There's a significant need for mechanics, A&P mechanics, as well as pilots, but mechanics as well. And I was a little bit reluctant. I know Steve West was part of these early conversations about this. I was a little bit reluctant. These are extremely, as you might imagine, expensive programs, and they are small programs. And so really wanted to be sure that it was the right thing to do. And then in the middle of all of that research and meeting with industry partners, the pandemic hit. And you know what happened to air travel, right? It went down significantly. And so it kind of just got put on hold. And then this past spring, the FAA came out with a grant opportunity for new programs. And Marty and I got together and decided we would submit a grant for $500,000. In the meantime, I know Jody Pellerin is on today. Jody and I work with Marty to begin trying to fundraise for this program. It's going to cost a couple $1 million to stand the program up, and not insignificant. Of course, Marty Lenz has been awesome to work with at Eastern Iowa Airport. They have a hangar there that they have dedicated to this program. And so last month, after almost 2 years of work, last month our board approved the college moving forward with an aviation program. So I am really excited about that. And then we also embarked upon what we call Guided Pathways. It's a institution-wide initiative designed to help students complete. So if you look at completion rates for community colleges, they're low. Typically completion rates are I think the average is about 30%. So we started this program. This is something that is really a 5-year initiative, and it really results in transformational change for the institution. So it's probably one of the biggest initiatives we could embark upon. But what it does, and I have a liberal arts background, and so I believe in the liberal arts, and I believe in kind of, testing and choosing courses that maybe you wouldn't otherwise select, and that you can learn sometimes like the direction you want to go by doing that. But what we also know is that too much choice and students feel a bit frozen. They don't really know what to choose. And so what Guided Pathways does is it kind of gets you in the middle. It still provides choice. It still provides opportunity to kind of take different kinds of things, but it does it in a little bit more controlled environment. It also changes your advising model. and it changes the way you think about your academic offerings. And so truly, it touches every part of the institution. And so we are into year 2 of Guided Pathways, and that initiative moved forward as well. Other things that we accomplished this past year, you know, we now have a long range plan. We have metrics and dashboards. So Kirkwood was not as data driven as what I had been accustomed to. And so we have got a new plan. We have metrics, dashboards. You can go out to our website, to the institutional effectiveness page or our boards page, and you can look at the dashboards yourself, and you can look at what we're doing in terms of retention and persistence and completion, and what our enrollment's doing. We believe that by doing this, it makes what we're doing here very transparent to all of the stakeholders in our district, the corridor as well. And you can see what things are important to us, what are our priorities for us. Emergency management is a huge initiative for us, and we have moved forward with that. We now have a central dispatch on campus, and every one of our outlying sites has had training. We've actually added another officer security person at the Iowa City campus. Our Iowa Hall project has moved forward on schedule, and that's a $33 million project for our student services, student affairs area. And our Washington Hall, which is our ag building, it was completed, I have here on schedule, but it was actually a little bit early, about a month early completed. And I think all of you know, we are the #1 program in the country for ag students. We have the most ag students and graduates. And so the Washington Hall project was a huge project for us, and one that was a bit overdue. But it is, if you get an opportunity, I'd be happy to show you, because that whole area is amazing. We have a combine simulator that I think there's only 2 in the country. It is pretty special. And then of course, our foundation. So a year ago, March, Jody and I were talking, what was going to happen? Would people still want to give in the middle of a pandemic? And we just didn't really know what was going to happen. And what we also knew, that was before any of the government stimulus dollars had been announced, we knew our students had needs. Many of them lost their jobs as businesses in their early months closed. So a lot of them were unemployed. We still had, of course, food and housing scarcity, and we just didn't know. But what I can tell you is our donors have been over the top generous. We wanted to raise $100,000 for our student emergency fund, and I think we were well over $150,000 on that. Giving is up more than 65% over the previous year. And employee giving, want to give Eric some kudos here. Our employee campaign, Kirkwood employee giving was a little bit below the national average. It was about 25%. And under Eric's leadership this past year, we were just under 50% of our employees giving. And so that really tells us that they understand what the foundation's trying to do, and they want to support it. So kudos to Eric on that. Most of all, I just want to say I have a whole lot of gratitude. So I really appreciated the gratitude moment this morning. I think coming through something like this, it's just one of those situations where it took a community to get through it, lots of communities to get through it. And so I have a lot of gratitude for our students, for our employees in particular, all of our communities. Our business and industry partners have been fantastic. Our donors have been fantastic. And we made it through to the other side because of all the support that we had. And I know a lot of you were talking about Kirkwood this morning and all of your support. And that's what helped get the institution through. And so we feel like we're a partner in the district, and we're a partner in the corridor. And we also see all of you as partners as well. So a lot of gratitude there. And so I'm going to stop, and I'll take questions from all of you. What else would you like to know?
Great. Well, thank you so much, Laurie. I know that we did have a question in the chat from Charlie Funk. Charlie, do you want to ask your question yourself?
Yes, thank you, Barb. Get my phone off, or get my Zoom off mute. Laurie, thanks. That's a great presentation. And on the aviation program, is the goal to train more folks so that they can eventually become commercial aviation pilots? Is that the goal?
So, so no, that's not the initial goal, but it could be a secondary goal. So the initial goal is to get A&P mechanics. So that's people that to work on the planes. But there's a shortage of pilots as well. And so we thought if we could get this one going first and get some success, we would like to partner with a 4-year university to do the pilot part of it. So we're talking about it, but we want to get this one done first.
Thank you. You know, Marty's very outspoken about the pilot shortage. I'm sure you've heard him speak.
I know. Marty he is such an asset to our region. I mean, he has been terrific and just a real pleasure to work with him, and just been great. So I really appreciate his leadership at the airport.
Great, thanks so much. Good question, Charlie. Next, we're going to go to Chuck Swanson. A reminder to anybody else that if you have a question, please just raise your hand in the reactions tab.
Laurie, great to see you today and a great presentation. I want to know, always turns to food for me. Bring me up to date on the culinary world at Kirkwood.
The culinary world. So it is much better than it was 6 months ago, right? So about the last thing you want to own in a pandemic is a hotel, right? But what I can tell you is our hotel did a fantastic job during that pandemic. We just got 2 awards, 2 statewide awards that were very prestigious, that actually spoke to our service at the hotel. And so the hotel is back, the restaurant is back, and they're doing the passport dinners again. The menu is great. And again, Jackie Bohr is the general manager there. And truly, she led that facility through the pandemic in just a terrific way. And I'm grateful to her, because I tell you, these 2 awards that we received were pretty good. And they were from the State Department of Tourism. Pretty prestigious awards. We had a strong competition. And so we also were awarded the 4 diamond status again this year for extraordinary service. So thank you, Chuck. Appreciate that. Everyone come back to the restaurant. They'd love to have you, that's for sure.
Thanks.
That's great. Next, another question from Ryan Bell. Ryan?
Well, maybe not so much a question, but I would also like to sing Eric's praises and thank him publicly for inviting me out to meet the hotel and restaurant staff, and also treated me to lunch. And Laurie, I can agree, it is back and it is awesome. So everybody should go check that out. And Eric is a great host out there, and really it's an incredible program. It's really top notch.
Yeah, so we had I don't know if you all know, we had just renovated the hotel prior to the pandemic. And it was actually like in the process. And there was like a few more things. And then we had done a new area outside, outdoor seating, fireplaces out there to really make that space more usable. And the derecho went through and just destroyed all that furniture that was out there. And then we had to pull furniture out, of course, because for social distancing. So that's all like getting back, and the outdoors is gorgeous, and the indoors, they're getting all the rest of the furniture back out. So it's beginning to feel a little bit more normal operations, but really I would encourage you to come out, because it looks gorgeous.
Well, that's great, especially with this beautiful June weather. Now that we've survived the very wet May, this is probably the perfect time for us all to go out there and enjoy something. Next, I will go to Gary Pasha for a question. Gary?
Laurie, I've had the opportunity over time to benefit both personally and professionally from Kirkwood. And one of the things that professionally I had some work with on the workplace development program, which I think has a different name now. I'm just curious about maybe a little bit of information regarding that program.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is workplace learning connections. And so just so you know, that is for Iowa, that's a model program in Iowa. Kirkwood is recognized as having a model program. Laurie Warden has been the person in charge of that. She is retiring this year, so we hate to lose her. But it provides high school students with all kinds of opportunities to have internships, job shadows, just to introduce students into what's available for them as careers when they get ready to graduate high school. And it is a phenomenal program. And so it's going strong. Like I said, it is a showcase program in the state. The state funds part of that, and some institutions just use what the state provides. Kirkwood has always felt that introducing young people into what could be potential careers and working with our high schools has been incredibly important and just a necessary thing to help students begin to think about what they want to go into. So we have always invested additional dollars into that program, and it certainly has paid off. So thank you, Gary, for that question. It's a fantastic program.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to LaDonna Wicklet. LaDonna?
Hello, Laurie. My husband and I, many of our friends are aging, and my parent is aging, and there's so much need for aging people, aging seniors. And Gary has always said, wouldn't it be wonderful if Kirkwood, you have your hotel and your restaurant program, if they did a care center program where people were trained in best practices of how to give care. It seems like there's going to be a lot of money put into this particular industry in the next few years with our aging population. So it's just a thought.
And maybe even—
Yeah, that's a great idea. We also are affiliated with the Heritage Center on Aging. They're on our campus. And so, but that's another good connection. Thank you.
Sure.
Gary, did you want to add anything there?
I was just going to add that they built the hotel with the restaurant. They could build a care center and take care of people too, and train their students.
And do management.
And do management.
Okay.
Great. Next, we have a question from Kelly Drown. Kelly?
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Dr. Sundberg. If you could please give us an update on Kirkwood continuing education, what's happening in that space?
Okay, so Kirkwood Continuing Education Department here at the college, we do more continuing education programs and outreach than any other college in the state. So DMAC is larger than us, but we are #1 for non-credit. Kim Betchika leads that area, and she is also going to retire this year. We have a lot of retirements coming up. She's done a phenomenal job. And that was an area that during the pandemic, we had some contraction. I mean, how do you do that? And what are people's comfort levels? Now, what I can tell you is our corporate and industry training went up during that time period. But continuing ed, enrichment classes, those kinds of things, those non-credit programs, they went down a little bit. They have since recovered. And so her department is now moving forward at better levels of enrollment. But it was hard hit as well during COVID.
Thank you.
But we're still #1 in the state.
Yeah.
Well, that is definitely good news. And I can understand that. I think everybody right now, in addition to being happy to see family again, is just excited that they can do other things, such as take a continuing education course, whether it's cooking or basket weaving or whatever it might be, that they have that opportunity and that it is now safer to do so. So I would imagine you would see a great increase in enrollments. So I just wanted to reach out. I believe Kim Casco has another question. Kim?
Yes, sorry, I do have a last question here. Hi, Laurie. Thank you for being with us here today. And kind of what you were just talking about with continuing, education and kind of shifting to virtual platforms, going back to in-person. And I think this whole past year has just been one big test for higher education and the value, of in-person learning. But with that in mind, also kind of curious to to get your thoughts on what might be things you learned from this past year in the pandemic, you know, whether it be using virtual platforms or other things that you are looking at keeping and continuing and evolving.
Yeah, that's the big question for us, right? Is what will it look like going forward? And we're talking a lot about that. And the short answer is I don't know. I don't know what student behavior is going to look like. So what I do know is that our faculty are super comfortable now with the virtual platform. And that wasn't true before. And so they've gotten pretty good at it. They've been able to, you know, keep refining, making changes. This next year will tell us by student behavior how they really want to do things. What we know is that students want a traditional college experience in some ways, at least. Just like all of us want to go back out and have dinner with our friends and we want to connect with our family, students want to be connected. They want to be connected to their friends. They want to have events on campus. We know those things, but we also know that they got a little bit comfortable the second semester with just, you know, rolling out of bed maybe and hopping on Zoom, right? It was a little bit easier than having to get dressed in the dead of winter and make it the trip across campus. How much of that will stick and how much they'll want to go back to face, we don't know. And so we're saying that this year is really going to be a transition year for us. We're bringing all employees back. We're not going to be doing any kind of virtual or remote working until we understand really the effects of this pandemic. I know there's some presidents who are, you know, making, you know, proclamations as to what's going to happen. And what I'm going to tell you is I don't know what's going to happen. I think it'll take us a while to figure it out. It's going to just take us a while to see what effects this pandemic has had and how quickly students, all of us, are going to have confidence to go back to some of those prior ways of doing things. I know we all want to, because I mean, you can see people that have been dying to get back out into restaurants and to get back connected with their friends and with their family. Students are the same. That's a long way to say. That's why I told you when I very first started, I didn't know. That's a long answer, but I don't know. I wish I did.
Yeah, I think it is a really interesting and challenging question. You know, even for us in the Tippy College, you know, advising has actually gone better for us virtually. Students show up for more virtual appointments rather than in-person appointments. But, you know, we're also realizing that our 8 to 5 workday is not as beneficial for them for advising compared to if we could flex our workdays a little bit. So it will be a year of continuous change, just like it's been for all of 2020 and 2021. So
it really is going to be. And that's the same thing that we found. So we used to do big orientations, and then students would be in groups in terms of advising. And of course, we didn't do that. And what we learned is that one-on-one advising, students really liked it. And the advisors felt that it was much more effective. So we're going to hang on to that piece that's labor intensive. When you have, 15,000 students, that's labor intensive. But we do think that it made a difference. But how they change in terms of their behavior, in terms of classes, that's a whole other story.
Exactly. Well, I think we have time for one more question. Devin, you have a question?
Yeah, just as an add-on to the conversation you were just having, you had talked somewhere near the first third of your presentation about you're moving to a more data-driven approach. And you had also said that you have had online classes in the past. So it's like the pandemic vastly changed the mix of that, right? But it wasn't a new thing. Is that data going to help drive your decisions, like as class, like you're going to maybe have one session of a class online and one session in person and see which one performs better? Because
yes, yeah, we are, Devin. That's the thing, is that and part of it, when I say that we're becoming more data driven, what we know is that the data directs you to where you need to look. It doesn't tell the whole story. Okay, it doesn't tell the nuances. And so you have to kind of dig in to kind of figure that part out, but it directs you to where you want to go. So we're going to be really looking at where are students enrolling? You know, is it a Zoom class? Is it an online class? Is it a hybrid, face-to-face? And then trying to figure out how we can package that in a way that makes sense for students and is easy for them to accommodate their schedule. And so, yeah, I've told a lot of people, I hate to wish my life away, but I wish it were like 10 years from now and I could look back on this time, right? Because so many changes, I think, are going to come from this time. I just don't know what they're going to be for sure.
Agreed, agreed. It's a big question for us all. Well, Laurie, I really want to thank you for coming today and sharing your PowerPoint, sharing your story, and it gave us all an opportunity to learn a little bit more about Kirkwood. And as you know, you have a lot of fans, a lot of Kirkwood fans here in this Rotary Club. So in honor of you taking your time today, our club will actually make a contribution to Rotary International's Polio Plus program in your name. And so with that, that donation will actually be doubled by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And so that will provide 70 vaccines to people around the world. So we'll do that in your name.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very special.
Well, so are you. So
thank you.
Yeah, so
it's been a pleasure to be here. It really has. I really appreciate your club, and I appreciate all the support.
Well, thank you. We're big fans, and we welcome you to come back at any point in time. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you.
If there is no other business before the club, I encourage everybody. Devin's going to share the 4-way test. You're welcome to unmute your microphones if you like to, and join in the cacophony that is the 4-way test. Of the things that we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Great. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Yep. See you guys.